It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're taking a look at Red Giant number 2. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, a place for everyone that loves classic RPGs and anyone who'd like to learn more about them. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. And today from 1981, we're taking a look at Red Giant number 2. Hope you enjoy the video. Today we're starting a look at a new fanzine called Red Giant. Unfortunately, I have not been able to track down a copy of Red Giant number 1. So we start our look with Red Giant number 2. It has 7 issues. I have all of those 2 through 7, so we'll take a look at those in the coming week. One of the things I really like about this fanzine is it's clearly a sort of homemade effort. You can see here the art on the first page. This is like legal size paper, extra long and skinny, regular paper, nothing heavy stock, and some staples down the side, just all white paper. This is really homemade goodness. You've got a typewriter in here that was done for the text. Almost no art, no fancy justification or anything else in here, basically just typed text. This is a really fun one to look at. This is the product of Toby Branfoot. Now, there are a couple of other people who make some small contributions in here, but he does the majority of this himself. Let's start by taking a look at the cover. He doesn't give any attribution to art, so I'm thinking that the art in here is probably Tony's original art as well. You'll see here issue 2, 50 pence, featuring a competition announcement, the Chambers of Death, which is an AD&D adventure, and the Blue Max, which is a World War I sort of board game. Here's the artwork, just sort of some mage's pentagram or something like that with ruins around the outside. What do we have inside? Short editorial, announcement of their competition, which is essentially soliciting contributions. Chambers of Death, several pages of original dungeon. Some rules for drowning. They're calling it Ghost, Ghoulies, and Long-Legged Beasties, which are new monsters. The Blue Backs, which is a second column talking about the rules for a World War I flying game, air-to-air combat game. A review, Mysteries in Magic, which are new magic items. A review of Superhero 2044, and an adventure for that called Robbery on Fifth Avenue. And then an article called Campaign Construction, which are tips for a dungeon master on setting up your own sort of home world or homebrew campaign. As I mentioned, Toby Branfoot is the primary person responsible for this. The D&D adventure comes from T. Haine. He also has some contributions from a person, he only says the last name is Houghton, A.M. Bailey, Robert Thomas, and then I think one of the articles is by C.P.C. Branfoot. Okay, here's our editorial. Yes, he says, this is my fabulous magazine issue number 2, and he mentions he has his assistant editors Thomas Haine and Carrick Richards, although he doesn't really say anything specific what those people do. I guess I could have listed them in the contributors section. 30 pages, he said, and it's kind of interesting to me. I've looked a couple of times just to make sure I'm right about this, and what's odd about it is the first several pages of this are printed on both sides, and then you get like halfway through, and the back side of every page is blank, and the copying, it's clearly done with copier, is just on that page. I thought maybe I was missing some pages, but I read it, like I said, a couple of times carefully, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not, that for whatever reason, in getting to 30 pages, he counts those blank pages. Anyway, it seemed a little odd to me, but again, homemade effort, so really good stuff. He asks here, do you prefer 15 pages for 30 pence that came out every month, or 50 pence, 30 pages every 2 months? So the same number of pages. He's saying basically if I do it every 2 months, probably do it a little more cheaply. He says he likes it, less hassle because you just go and get it typed and make your copies all at one time, etc. He thinks that as Deviant Games may order and stock some of his, and we'll see about that. And as he mentions, while this is a D&D, maybe is the cornerstone of this, he wants to do a lot of other things, like he says, Superhero 2044, and he hopes to do other things like RuneQuest, Traveler, Gamma World, maybe even some Tunnels and Trolls, Gangster, Space Opera, Boot Hill, Dragon Quest, or Fantasy Trip, if other people who will send in contributions are into those games, because I don't think he necessarily has all of those. He complains in here, no one's really given me much in terms of a major article, other than this excellent adventure, the D&D adventure you're going to see. So he announces his competition. for any type of contribution, but it's got to be sort of a significant article. He'll give you the Asteroid 04 minigame, then he'll give you Temple of Ra dungeon, and then he'll give you free issues of this fanzine for the runners-up. Okay, the first thing here, best thing in here probably for me, is this homemade dungeon, the Chambers of Death. And you can tell it's homemade. I mean, look at this map, right? The lettering obviously is just somebody did with a pen or pencil. And then you can sort of see this map. It's like that, in the actual copy. It's just a little hard to see because it's a little bit faded, super funky. And the way this works, you've heard about this Black Mask Society and this Black Mask. There's some rumors in town. You basically are penniless adventurers. You get hired to go and adventure in this inside this temple. The guy who hires you knows of a secret entrance. And so that's up here at the top right. And so he will bring you move some brush aside, you find this secret entrance, the main entrance apparently trapped and heavily guarded. And so you come in up at the top and you begin to adventure your way through this dungeon. Very typical stuff, I think, from this era. I may have mentioned 1981. Piecing it together, it looks like this comes out probably around June 1981. And I say that because he says, I'm giving you 3 months to respond to my competition, deadline October 1st. And so I just sort of backed into this probably being something that came out around June of 1981. And the first, you're going to find some goblins, and then back in the deeper as you go in, you get into some orcs, a very traditional monsters, very good sort of the ecology of the dungeon in the sense that everything sort of makes sense there, although it's pretty heavily trapped in my opinion, but I guess these guys are trying to be protective. As I mentioned, there's this temple, this was sort of created as the White Death, as a group years and years, eons ago perhaps we should say, who did evil things here, and this was their lair, and they're gone as far as we know. And so these goblins and orcs have sort of moved in and occupied the area after that group disappeared and made it their home lair. But pretty good. Like I said, everything makes perfect sense. And you recall in some of the earlier or recent fanzine videos, I talked about this concept of the living dungeon, right? And these guys were really into that idea. And that's the idea that your monsters don't just sit in a room and wait for you to open the door, and then attack or do whatever it is they're going to do. That life is happening, the dungeon, and people are moving around. And so they do a really good job here of that concept. And in fact, there's a whole page here that tells you as you go through the dungeon, on different turns, different things are going to happen. So the DM is keeping track of that, right? And so he says, like, turn 1, that's when the party enters. So it is sort of like the stage is frozen, and then hits, drops the record needle down and hits play. So turn 2, the leader of the orcs and his advisors will be in this particular room, and then later they'll go to these other rooms, and and it moves around. Just sort of, again, if you pulled back and could see it overhead, just moving, the orcs and the goblins around within there. Maybe they go out on a hunting mission. Obviously, that changes if they react to the behavior of the party, and there's some things in here which can cause that for sure. But generally, everything's not static. It's that whole idea of just an added level of sophistication to your dungeon that, first off, it makes sense, and secondly, that it's sort of alive and moving around as the players move through, which I think is extra good because a thoughtful party at some point realizes that's how dungeons are going to work. We'll observe and maybe see, there are guards, but we know guards don't stay forever. So at some point, this guard's going to move off. Maybe we wait and see what happens, right? Anyway, pretty darn good. There is a chance you can get back into this secret area where the White Death Society had some of its more sinister activities if you make it all the way through and clean out the dungeon. In any event, great dungeon. It's, I think, for a few, what's he say here, 3 to 7 first to third level characters. It's definitely sort of the right level, I think, in terms of hardness, and would definitely be a fun one to do. This is probably a long session, sort of like your 6-7 hours, or maybe over a couple of sessions, you could definitely get through something like this. And as they said, definitely designed to be dropped in to whatever campaign you want to use. There is a place where you can end up in some water here, and they mentioned that they don't think there are any particular rules on drowning, so they want to give you those. He said, I did steal some of these ideas from RuneQuest. He said, I basically wanted to give you some ability to stay alive in the water, especially if you had a chance to take a deep breath. We'll give you 2 melee rounds for free. Then you start rolling a d20, and you've got to go over your constitution every round, and you get a negative every time. I think he's saying that backwards, right? So you got to roll under your constitution, and you subtract 2 from the die every time. If you're under your constitution, then you're starting to drown. You take a quarter of your hit points every round thereafter as you begin to drown. So anyway, pretty good rules. And he's got some ideas there on different types of armor. At some point, you're too heavy and you just can't even swim. You'll just sink, or you'll move a lot more slowly. New monsters, always fun. These new monsters are great. I think it's interesting to come to, this fanzine, which is, I guess, as they said it, all software. These ideas of, new monsters and new magic items, as opposed to just ideas purely on how to be a better dungeon master. But I still appreciate new monsters and new magic items for sure. So the first ones are the brown and gray dragon. They feel like they're a little bit smaller. Although they say size is large, but they describe them. I guess they call them small and then say they're 25 to 30 feet long. But so the brown dragon, as I say, relatively small and energetic. Don't sleep often, live in the warm climates, and attack with claws and bites, or a cloud 2x2x2, which causes saving throws, and if not, you become sort of feeble-minded. You won't be able to concentrate, miss a weapons, spells, and so forth. You won't have the focus to do that. Then the gray dragon, or the sickener, and similar things. He lives more in marshy areas or colder climates, and he gives out this nauseating gas, and you'll get sort of sick and vomit, and maybe even become incapacitated. He also says that the gray dragon teeth are extremely valuable as they're made of ivory. And so they have an editorial note in here about how you might end up like wanting to know how many teeth are in there, because I'm going to rip all the dragon's teeth out after I kill it, as that's the most valuable part of the dragon to carry and easy to carry back with me. All right, and then he gets into some random editorial about where different, like bronze dragons and brass dragons, and are they mating with, like metallurgy, or are they mating to be formed, or how are they going to come together? Then the next one is called the Hag. It's basically a forest witch of some sort. Gives them a familiar, gives them a chance to have potions and spells. Nothing particularly exciting there. Just statted up, I suppose. Then there's one called the Yemonix. There's a greater and lesser variety. They're sort of furry creatures. And they mention in here how much they like the idea of adding more sort of smart humanoid type creatures to encounter, and they say that's the one thing they wish there were more of in the original monster manual. So this furry creature can claw you, it can bite you. It's about 8 feet tall and 500 pounds. It's neutral with tendencies towards evil, and so they may fight. They have the ability to blink away. They can see in complete darkness, including magical darkness. But essentially, they're just a sort of humanoid type creature you can encounter. The lesser Yemonix is sort of a little more monkey-like, and they basically want to only interact with elves. And then we have the Sanhedrin, which are another humanoid type of encounter. They said they are often thought to be related to the lesser Yemonix. They also have fur, which their fur changes color as they move. And so it sounds like more of sort of chameleon type thing, sort of dusty brown in the desert, turning to a darker greenish color as they get into the forest and so forth. And again, these guys have spell abilities, they carry weapons and so forth, and again, probably prefer to interact with elves as opposed to most humans. All right, good stuff. Oh, yeah, good stuff. Here we go. Let's look at the Blue Max. And so now we get the advanced rules. And so for those of you who are thinking, I think this has to be the precursor to the game from Game Designers Workshop. I looked online to see if I was right about this. So this game is allegedly supposed to be first published by Game Designers Workshop in 1983. But here we are in 1981 in this fanzine talking about these rules. It could be a coincidence, but I really kind of, tend to think it's probably not a coincidence. I think these might have been the early version of the rules. It's a World War I plane-to-plane combat game, And so the first thing he does in this article is say, here's some advanced rules. I'll start with some clarification of the basic rules I've already shared, thinking maybe those were in issue 1, but I haven't been able to confirm that. And then I've got a bunch of advanced rules, like how do you put, like, come so that the sun's at your back, so when you come at somebody, the sun sort of prevents them from being able to see you, so you're blind. Use of anti-aircraft fire, different information for sights and maneuvering, climbing, diving, use of balloons in combat, different ideas about different ways you can approach damage to different parts of the airplane, and so on. I thought it was quite good. And again, it's written here as if the author had created these rules and is now sort of giving you his or her, I think it's his, advanced version of the rules. And also, I thought this was kind of interesting. So in this fanzine, there's just this little square piece of paper that is shown here that has some additional rules for what the attacker's doing versus for what the defender's doing, and how that would modify the rolls of the dice. Here's a short review. Once Upon a Time in the West. They liked it quite a lot. It's a Wild West, U.S. Southwest type of combat. They talk about, has a little tint of role-playing in it, gives you stats for most of the sort of famous movie characters of the day. And so they liked it quite a bit. Then we get into some new magic items. I always think that's a lot of fun. This is from a number of different people. A.M. Bailey, Robert Thomas give us several of these. So we've got the Ring of Illusion. And if you shut your eyes and concentrate, you can create an illusion. It won't take up any more than 8 feet by 4 feet sort of size, and you have to concentrate with your eyes shut to do that. So someone could sneak up on you if you're not careful. And then you'll have to rest as many rounds as you kept the illusion in effect. So again, nice balancing aspect to that. The Sword of Chaos looks like a normal sword. It does have some chaos ruins that you might be able to figure out if you look carefully at the pommel. If you're not, and this is really chaotic evil, I guess, it's a +1 sword. They let anyone use it, but after 20 attacks, you will shift alignment to chaotic evil. So that's bad. And then, but once you're chaotic evil, it's a +5 sword, so that's pretty good. And it will emanate evil. If you're not evil and you get within 20 feet of it, you save versus poison or be affected by some sort of nauseous effect that makes you unable to sort of focus because of the evil, extreme evil of the sword. That's probably a little overpowered, but again, I like the creativity. Then we have the Ring of Change. This one is quite good. There's a command word you utter. It will randomly polymorph you, and there's a table of D100 you would roll to what you get polymorphed into. Lots of cool things. You can be a demon, a dragon, an elephant, spider. In any event, you do that, and then the DM will roll 2d6, and that's how many turns you'll stay, and then you'll just turn back. The DM is supposed to note that. Let's say it was 6 turns. Okay, the next time you polymorph, it will automatically be twice that, so it'd be 12. The next time you polymorph, it'll be twice that, so it'll be 24. And if you remember anything about the sort of rule of doubling, that can become a lot really quickly. In any event, pretty fun, and that added sort of wrinkle of you don't know how long you're going to stay in that state. And you can't voluntarily come back. You're in it for that many turns. Then we have a number of things that tie back to the Sanhedrin monster/NPC race. The axe of the Sanhedrin, +1 or +2 axe that does not give any effect to leather armor. I guess it's so sharp it cuts through it, let's just say. And so if you have leather armor or less, then it's basically going to treat you as armor class 10. It says it's a dull metal that gives more of a thunk than a clink. So I like that too, some strange, substance it's made out of. The arrows of the Sanhedrin, just as are dull black in color, just like the axe, and they usually are barbed, so they do damage. Both they go in, but they also do more damage when you pull them out. And then there's the Wand of Telekinesis. It's an ivory wand with a little platinum on each end, and then there's this emerald, and you crush this emerald, and you can carry a 10th. It's as if you cast a 10th level telekinesis spell, and you can carry a bunch of weight. We have the Rod of the Sanhedrin, and it eliminates the tracks. So when you move movement rate of 12 or less, then there's no tracks left behind. You can also use charges to let you move faster than that and have a 95% chance of of hiding your tracks. It can also cast an entangle spell, and sort of you get that sort of again, because these woodland creatures, right? So you get that sort of bonus as well. And finally, we have the Sanhedrin whistle. It's ultrasonic. Sanhedrin can hear it. They'll be very unhappy if someone who isn't Sanhedrin gets a hold of one of these and is blowing on it. So they will probably come find you, figure out who you are, come back with numbers, and attack you to try and get the whistle away from you. All right, so that's that one. Now we switch gears to Superhero 2044. This is C.P.C. Branfoot's review. Liked it quite a bit. They go through and explain how it works. They sort of use this character called the Torch to give you an idea of the type of superhero you might be, how you should go through and sort of set this up. And then they have a sample scenario. As they said, the simplest one is the bank robbery slash jewelry store robbery kind of thing here in town. And in fact, that's what they're doing. You'll see we've got a news outlet, a furniture shop, a jewelry shop with its workroom and office, and the supermarket. And the bad guys are going to rob the jewelry store. You're going to show up and try to stop them. So that's how that game's going to work. And then the last article, which other than the D&D adventure, I do like quite a bit. I thought it was quite good. This is part 2 of their series talking about campaign construction, how to set up your own homeworld campaign. And so the first thing they talk about is you've got to create the world map. They give you some tips. They say we like to always have a coastline, so you have some body of water established for future adventures. You could even do your campaign on islands or have a bunch of islands, but have some coastline. That's a recommendation. And then obviously add in grasslands, rolling hills, mountains, add in your rivers and streams, at least the major ones, add in your cities and towns. Again, they suggest a pretty decent size. I think maybe a little bigger than I would think you need to, having read different articles about how to start this. But they do land on this, which is, I think, an important thing, which the second step after you draw your map is population in detail. And as they say, you need to have some NPCs. Your towns are going to have a place to stay, somebody, blacksmith, merchants, etc. Think about what that's going to be. Give those people a little bit of background, color, in detail, some personality traits or motivations or something, so that they're not sort of two-dimensional characters, because that'll really make your world come alive. And I think that's quite true. If there's one thing you should do when you set up a new world and you have, a home base, or at least a potential home base, is really take the time to make some of those characters interesting. You don't have to do everyone in a 100-person village, right? But you can figure out who they're most likely to interact with. Maybe pick a couple random people that aren't at the logical places, like not at the inn, not at the blacksmith shop. Maybe it's just a random person in the town, right? At least 5 or 6 really good, very three-dimensional, interesting characters that you can come up with. Really help get the players drawn into their character, drawn into that world. And as he says, they shouldn't all be level 0. Get some retired fighters, maybe retired thieves running the inn. Obviously, yeah, there might be a monastery with a cleric, but think through. Obviously the players don't need to know who those NPCs were, but you should know. Give them, and so that they're both a little stronger than a first level party, but also have a little bit more of a background and some interest to them. So that's his suggestion for that. And as he says, next time we're going to talk about turning your campaign world into a long-running campaign for adventure. So that'll be in issue 3. And we got one little piece of art here at the back. Oh no, it's the tax inspector and the dragon with its hoard in front of it sits there. And I can't tell what that. There's some initials there, look like maybe an L and an R and something, and then 1981. Oops. Okay, there we go. Red Giant, number 2, from the summer of 1981. This is going to be a really fun one. All these have this same, I just did this down in my parents' basement kind of vibe to it, right? Don't know if that's really what happened, but very, very cool stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you're enjoying our channel, and I hope you're subscribed. If you have friends who might enjoy this, please tell them about us, send them our way, and hopefully they'll be subscribers as well. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.